Chancellor Radio Productions presents, in association with Bucketnaut Media Productions and Squatch Film, The Tragedy of the Helios, an audio production in 4 parts, written by Matt Whitney. Episode 2, The Wasteland at the End of the World. Rough waves crashed against the rocky Antarctic coast. The sea was determined to not let the 2 rowboats full of passengers and supplies traverse from the Helios to the shore. Klosterman pulled his coat tight, tucked his chin against the biting cold and salt air. He watched as the quartermaster and his companions rowed hard against the tempest.
David.
Dr. Aster nudged Klosterman as he pointed towards the shore, where several simple buildings stood.
Why is everything so still?
Klosterman squinted through the gale at the seemingly empty buildings. While it was to be expected for everyone to be inside, there were no signs of life in the windows.
Perhaps they're still aboard the Leo.
Behind them, a massive steel research vessel bobbed in the rough waters. It, too, had no signs of life.
Would they not have signaled us if they were aboard?
Perhaps.
Both men sat back, hunched against the cold and wet. They watched as the crew fought the sea, inching towards the coast. Base camp was a ghost town. Aster's suspicions were correct, as no sign of life was anywhere.
Dr. McKenzie!
Dr. McKenzie!
Klosterman peered through a snow-covered window into the storeroom.
Paul!
Over here!
Are they inside?
The quartermaster rushed over and tried the locked door.
Looks completely deserted. Why is it locked?
Splintering wood gave way to the quartermaster's boot as he kicked in the front door. The professors and crew followed him in to find the storeroom empty. Bare shelves and empty crates were all that was left of supplies meant to take them to the South Pole and back.
Where's all the food? The supplies?
Do you think they went ahead without us?
Never. Why would they leave early? The plan was to depart on the 24th.
The quartermaster checked for any overlooked food.
What's your plan now? Are we to row you back?
No, not yet. Please let us think.
Aster and Klosterman were left alone in the storeroom while the crew went to search the remaining buildings.
I don't like this at all, Stephen.
Nor do I. Do you think that boat had anything to do with it?
That man had not been eating well. He hasn't been here.
Someone has. And I'd like to know who before we decide what to do next.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Through the door stepped Ellen Shaw. She may have been mistaken for a man in her utilitarian clothing, if not for removing her balaclava upon entering. The men in the storeroom turned to her, taken aback at an unexpected visitor.
Miss Shaw, when did you arrive? We only saw Mackenzie's boat.
I put into port 30 miles up the coast and arrived here by sled last night.
Why not dock here?
There was a penguin colony I wanted to photograph.
Klosterman shook his head at Shaw's antics, which were not out of character. Once, some years ago, he had bumped into her while on holiday in the Turkish Republic. He was there on leisure. She to climb Mount Ararat.
Was Mackenzie here when you arrived?
No. We rowed out to the Leo, but it was deserted. It looks like he left for the relief camp already.
But why would he leave without us? We have no way of following him.
You didn't bring dogs?
We expected to use Mackenzie's.
Well, I brought dogs. Enough to share. Food, too. We set up in the bunkhouse.
The professors followed Shaw from the storehouse to the nearby bunkhouse. Chained up outside were a dozen sled dogs who pulled at their restraints, ready to blaze across the tundra. Half a dozen of Shaw's crew milled about outside, readying the sleds for departure. They seemed unfazed by the brutal weather. Shaw led them inside, which was not much warmer, but was, thankfully, out of the wind. While there was much to plan and discuss, one question burned at the front of Klosterman's, and no doubt Aster's mind.
Ellen, did you see any other vessels when you put into port? Or while you traveled up the coast?
No. Are you expecting other colleagues?
No. We were approached by a small boat yesterday, and a man warning us away from the shore.
Did he say where he was from?
No. He sailed off without a word.
Shaw twisted her hands, considered for a moment before speaking.
I did see something on my way here.
The doctors urged her on.
2 days ago, we were cresting a ridge. I was the first one over the top, and when I looked down, there was a crowd of black-robed figures.
Who were they?
I've no idea. I turned away to call to someone, and when I turned back, they were gone. It was probably a trick of the light.
The three of them stood in silence a moment, none of them wanting to explore the subject further.
How do we proceed from here?
Full steam ahead. I have the supplies and the dogs to get us to the relief camp. There's no reason to believe we won't meet Mackenzie there.
And if we don't, right now we have a ship waiting for us.
Then we resupply and carry on. If he never made it to the base camp, then there will be more than enough.
And if he did, and already moved on?
Then we pray he was kind enough to leave us something.
The day passed without incident as everything was readied for departure the next day. Night never exactly fell in Antarctica this time of year, but gloomy cloud cover dampened the sunny cheer of earlier. Klosterman leaned against a wall, watching the crew making merry in the center of the room. The stocky cook, Salmon, passed out sandwiches from a tray, eventually making his way to Klosterman.
No, thank you.
Are you feeling ill?
Even if I weren't agitated, meat and I do not exactly agree.
Please, do not worry, sir. We've already been traveling in this environment for a week. We will get you safely to your destination.
I'm sure you will. That's not what worries me.
Salmon stayed by Klosterman, inviting him to continue.
Did you witness anything unusual on your journey?
In what way? I see many unusual things traveling with Miss Shaw.
Have you ever heard of Sashane?
Sashane is the angry sun.
Klosterman was wholly unaware of such a being, and was confused to be met with such certainty from the man.
Sashane and Aster were brothers. Two great lights in the night sky. Both shined brightly, but Aster shined brighter of the two. This made Sashane envious, and he plotted to usurp his younger brother. One day, while Aster was making his way across the sky, Sashane cast him down to Earth, where he landed in a great lake that extinguished his brilliant light. Now, Aster waits, trapped in a watery tomb while his brother watches him endlessly from the heavens.
And what would happen if Aster escaped his prison?
He would take to battle against his brother in the sky, and the destruction they wrought would consume the earth in fire.
This has been a Chancellor Radio production, in association with Bucketnaut Media Productions and Squatch Film. Written and narrated by Matt Whitney. Performances by Tyler Savino, Jordan Mullins, Emily Elizabeth Brown, Jake Baker, and Tyler Mason. Editing and sound design by Tyler Savino. Thank you for listening to Episode 2 of The Tragedy of the Helios. Please subscribe to our channel for future episodes and more quality content, and stay tuned for Episode 3, Ab Termino Furor, releasing December the 28th.